Hi guys, Dust Mephisto here, and I wanted to go ahead and talk about speedrunning the Maw so that you're in a position where you're ahead of the pack and you deal with less of a headache trying to compete for mobs trying to compete to just go ahead and have an enjoyable leveling experience. One of the things that I've found in every expansion that has brought me the most joy is making sure that I'm in a position where I'm ahead of the pack so that I'm not really competing, I'm not really waiting around, I'm not having to stand. So to dive right into that, I'm going to go ahead and address some of the items, gear, equipment, and toys, macros that you can go ahead and use to make your experience a little bit better. And then we'll go ahead and go through the maw and kind of showcase some of these different steps throughout this video. So first off, Lightfoot Potion. A lot of people don't know this, but it actually works from level 50 to level 51. And of course, if you have War Mode enabled, which by the way, you should, for the Horde, you'll still be level 50 by the time you finish the Maw. You'll hit 51 shortly into Oribos. If you're Alliance, you'll go ahead and will be around level 51 in about maybe 15-20%. It's really, really nice. And of course, one of the main things that, seriously, look, you're already in Orgrimmar, you're already in Stormwind, enable War Mode. You have zero PvP competition when you're in the Maw. Zero. And a lot of classes get extra mobility. Warriors, for example, we get two, not one, two heroic leaps that also give us bounding strikes for bounding strides for a 70% increased movement speed. That's a lot and nothing to bitch about. And again, also 10% and 25% EXP for doing nothing. Nothing. Enable War Mode. You can disable it as soon as you get into Oribos. Honestly though, I'd keep it on until you finish the quest in Oribos, so then right when you're about to head into Bastion, if you don't like PvP, turn it off. Up until that point, it's free EXP. Why would you turn that down? Now, next up, obviously we got Goblin Gliders and we got Gun Shoes. So gun shoes are super useful here. There's not a lot of opportunities to properly utilize them for the whole 25 seconds, but they're still useful. And of course, you're going to be using them on your run throughout just throughout the rest of it. Lightfoot Potion though, that's really going to save you from 50 to 51. As long as you have that, it's going to be real smooth. But again, that's only going to last from 50 to 51. After 51, these no longer work as they're ineffective above level 50. Of course, if you want to go ahead and take that extra step, you can use the Monari Training Amulet if you happen to need it. Now that brings me to the next point. Speed sets. They're super critical. When you're in the Maw, when you're in combat, that extra movement speed's gonna save your ass. So you want to make sure that you get a few specific items. Now, obviously, these tips are only going to be kind of sort of partially useful for some classes. Obviously, Shaman have Ghost Wolf, Druids have Cat form, Travel form, Worgen can use their planeswalking ability. They're on all four. All of these different things are going to go ahead and affect movement speed and should be considered for your individual class. But as a warrior, I'm going to go ahead and mention this. So first and foremost, the Runeblade of Baron Rivendare. This is a two-handed sword. It's usable by hunters, death knights, warriors, paladins. I think that covers everything. Those four classes can go ahead and use this for an additional 10% movement speed. Unfortunately, two of them will not stack together. As you can go ahead and see, my movement speed is not higher, it's lower. The other thing to go ahead and note, actually let's just go ahead and show that. So again, 143, 143. The other thing to go ahead and note is that there are two gems. We have Straddling Viridium and Straddling Sage Agate. Now, that gives a total of 8% movement speed. You can go ahead and put that in other slots. If you happen to have like an eye level boot that's like 50, you can go ahead and put that in there. Personally, I set it to my weapons. That way I get at least 18% movement speed when in combat that I can just go ahead and add whenever I want. Now, outside of that, what I recommend, of course, is that you go ahead and get a pair of eye level 48, you can go ahead and craft these boots. I specifically crafted these because if you look at other boots, say these for example, right? 21 crit, 15 mastery, 9 crit, 7 haste. Obviously, it's not a perfect comparison, but I can add another 7 crit gem. I can add another 7 crit gem through the Deadly Shimmering, right? This is going to add 7 crit that I can go ahead and just slot in there, and that'll give me at least somewhat kind of comparable where it's not really going to hurt me too much. Now, outside of that, look for gear that you have in your inventory that has a little bit of speed, right? Anything that can give you a little bit of extra speed, go ahead and, equip it, make a macro around it. The other last thing on the subject of speed is use an heirloom cloak. Just because they have a higher eye level, you can go ahead and slot a 2% crit or 2 crit 2% speed to go ahead and stack on top of everything. And as I mentioned earlier, the Manari training amulet can also be used. It depends on how weak you want your character to be and how you want to utilize that. But it is an additional 40% movement speed that can be used every 5 minutes. You would just re-equip it when you're at 4 minutes and 30 seconds or 30 seconds left on your cooldown. Utilize it right away and then start. So those are just a few little things that you can go ahead and do, as we're going to just show right here that we get that extra little 30%. So we're at 183% movement speed, and we're almost traveling at the same speed as a druid in travel form. So that's going to be super useful when we're in the Maw. Next up, obviously, look for movement speeds on your talents. The Maw is designed to be completed by a low eye level character, right? We're talking around like eye level 70, 80, maybe even eye level 100, right? So as you can see, my gear score, it's a little low. I'm 104, but I have a fairly easy time killing things. Plus, there's going to be a lot of other people there, making it easier for you to kill things already to begin with. So as a warrior, the three major talents that I want are going to be War Machine. Anytime something dies, I get a 30% movement speed buff. If I'm in a party, which I'm going to recommend, and I'll talk about that in a bit, I'm going to get a 30% movement speed buff. Double time. This lets me charge twice. And the cooldown's reduced. That gives me just a little bit of extra mobility. Last, we have Bounding Stride, and as mentioned previously with Barbarian, that gives me just a little bit extra time of 70% movement speed on top of everything. The other thing that I want to go ahead and mention is the Overtuned Corgi Goggles. Now, the Overtuned Corgi Goggles are very, very useful. Mainly because when we're here, it's going to be fucking crowded. As you can see right now, everyone can literally be around this. Everyone can just just swarming. Do that, bam. Easy to click Nasgram. I'm not going to have to worry about everyone standing right on top of the boss. I'm not going to have to worry about any of that headache. We'll just go talk to him, skip through it, and we're good. This is a great way to reduce a lot of that headache, and this is going to be the most critical time for avoiding that. Now, obviously, we're going to go ahead and just go through the rest of this. It's going to be very, very simple. One of the things that I recommend is right now is going to just be one of the best times to go ahead and pop that Lightstep Potion. Just get all the way over here. Bam, turn in that quest. You're going to have some RP. You see each here, every other one. There you go. It should be right here. Every other one, you're going to have to go ahead and drag this over there. This is very time consuming. It's going to take you about maybe 2-ish minutes, somewhere around there. There is nothing that you can do to really improve it. As you can see, my movement speed's 143%. You may have saw that it was higher earlier. That's because your Azurite traits are no longer working. So definitely going to keep an eye. You're going to be clicking this piece right here. As soon as it's available, you just want to go ahead and click it. Bam, like that. And you're walking all the way over here. You do not need to be exactly on it. So it is just kind of a slow drag. Usually like right about here, you'll be able to go ahead and click. So bam, there we are. And then we're on to the next one, which is going to go right there. Same thing. Soon as you get close enough that you can click on it, repeat, and so forth. You'll just do this for all 4 of them. It's more or less kind of slow and boring, not very exciting, but you got to do what you got to do to go ahead and get through this. They used to be able to use movement speed abilities for this, things like heroic leap, but obviously now your character is pacified. This is part of the reason why I mentioned that go ahead and using that Lightfoot Potion is there's going to be enough downtime that it doesn't significantly matter. Now, while we're doing this, I'd like to go ahead and mention that I said earlier you should be in a party. Now, the reason why you should be in a party is that you can actually send people to do certain things while you do other things. Everyone gets quest credit for everything in the mall, more or less. It is really, really party efficient. So when we go ahead and go in here, I'm going to showcase just a few things where you want to make sure that you have your party split off and doing separate things. So just as soon as we go ahead and zone in, and it's going to take a little bit, but you'll go ahead and say, I recommend a party of either 3 to 5, and there's going to be a few opportunities where if you get left behind because of the way the mall is designed, it's actually going to benefit you. So obviously, here we are. We're not able to mount up, as you can see. One of the things, obviously, you could go ahead and just do this and attack everything here, but everyone's going to be doing that. So what I recommend is you just pop your gun shoes right away, right? So everyone in your party, pop your gun shoes. You're going to go ahead and click that quest. Bam. You'll have one person stay back here. You have one person stay back there and start doing that. The rest of your group, though, you're going to rush right over here and you're going to kill this dude. You want to make sure you're the first person to go and kill this. Obviously, I didn't switch out of my gear, so this is going to be a bit rougher than I'd like. Get it? Rougher? Because everything's corgis. But yeah, so you're going to go ahead and go through this. You'll kill this real fast. Since you'll have a couple of other people with you, this should go down really quickly. You'll just go ahead and kill as necessary. And hopefully by this point, the other person in your party was able to go ahead and get those kills and click each of the little corgis that you need to go ahead and free to make sure, or not corgis, but each of the little death knights that you need to free in order to be done here. Right, so right over here, we're going to encounter Jaina. This is going to result in an escort. So don't worry if your friends don't make it with you. This is actually one of the little catch-up parts that is actually really beneficial in being a group. So say you fell behind, right? Right now we're going through this, we're waiting. My friends like maybe a quest behind us. So while they're doing that, when they actually reach here and that they get to this point where they have to go ahead and talk to Jaina and we end up activating the cutscene and we're at this part, they're now also on this part, right? So right wherever we are, they'll go ahead and follow right alongside us. And this will also apply even if they're even further behind for some reason. So while this next part, we're actually going to be escorting Jaina and she's going to be moving ahead and going through all that fun stuff. We're also going to be able to catch up there. So there's a lot of catch-up mechanics that really benefit having a group. So this is specifically where I'm talking about that escort. So right now, our Corgi Jaina is kind of just leading the way. And so say my friend just now catches up, well, guess what? They don't have to wait for this whole roleplay. It's already happening. So they'll just be able to run right next to us and take part. Now, we are going to get ambushed a couple of times. This is also one of the places where being in a party is going to be more useful because you're going to be able to kill these things faster. At this point, you are phased. That means you will only be seeing players that are part of your group. Now, you might think this is a real good time to go ahead and use your Goblin Glider as you head down in there. However, unfortunately, it is based off of escort, right? So it's yet even more escort bullshit. So unfortunately, the best thing that you can do is just head right on down, because nothing's going to actually enhance or improve it. What I should have done there, by the way, is this Ebon Clarion is really fucking useful. It does a ton of damage, so use it whenever you get the chance to. Now here, this is just a whole series of waiting bullshit RP. It's just boring and bland. Alright, now that the roleplay is finished, this is where I highly recommend that you go ahead and make sure that you get out of here as fast as possible. If you haven't already, you want to make sure that you get these mobs as fast as possible. You want to go ahead and be ready to melt this shit and get on and on to the next mobs. One, because they respawn very fucking slowly. As you can see right here, you want to make sure that you are able to go ahead and get these guys weakened, because they will respawn very slowly. So you're gonna go ahead and pop your item. It does switch, so do make sure to go ahead and switch those out. Every now and then it does little bug. So this is the part where I recommend using a Goblin Glider. So at this point, you just want to go ahead and Goblin Glide right here, just like that. Bam, you're at Jaina, and then you're running back out. This is the perfect time to go ahead and use that Goblin Glider. Definitely not the first time, but that time. After this, we're going to actually go ahead and use gun shoes. Now, our gun shoes are just going to last just enough alongside our movement speed set. We go right to the left like this, and then we're going to go ahead and just cut as close as possible. We shouldn't get dazed. And as you see, we're just going to move over that. Now again, assume I got ahead of my friends, right? So I'm ahead of my friends. We made it all the way over here. Right here is where we're going to go ahead and get teleported, I believe. There we go. We end up waiting. Cutscene should have triggered for some reason. Okay. That's cool. I've only done this like 5 times and I just now find a bug. This is releasing next week. Jaina isn't activating a quest. Cool. Come the fuck on, dude. Alright, so do note you need to go ahead and trigger that spot right there. Alright, so we gotta turn that in. Blah, blah, blah. So at this point, you want to go ahead and start looking for mob bringers, or these will breakers. So while this is happening, what I recommend, if you love your friends, what you're going to do is you're just going to start collecting keys. Okay? The whole goal is just going to go ahead and make sure that you have all the keys that you need so that your friends can go ahead and survive. At this point, you're just going to go ahead, you need around 5 to 6 keys. So you're just going to grab as many mobs as possible. As soon as they're all dead, or as soon as you have all 6 keys, your friends should easily be here by now. And that's when you're going to go ahead and start opening it up. So also do note that there are cages and mobs up here, making it worthwhile to go ahead and come over. Be sure to use your Ebon Clarion, as it will go ahead and make fast work of the afflicted here. You just want to go ahead and use this, and after he's dead, we're going to use our second Goblin Glider here. So just like this, you go ahead and see this distance. This is the best place to go ahead and use your next Goblin Glider. You go ahead and just click it like that. I overshot it. Obviously, you want to do that just a wee bit sooner. You'll go ahead and use whatever movement speed stuff you have here. I recommend against Lightstep Potion here. You'll find a better place to use it in just a little bit. Go ahead and click each of these. Make sure that they are done. They take a second to go ahead and register. You turn in, talk. Now you might think, oh no, I have to run over here. A portal's going to open up right here. So you're just kind of stuck waiting a little bit. And then here comes the portal. You'll click the portal. You'll go ahead and talk. This will it'll go through all of this, make it talk. You're stuck waiting. This is just role play. As soon as this is done, you're going to go ahead and Lightfoot Potion out. Now, your team should be here with you. So if you're in a party, everyone should still be here. And this is going to be the next kind of bottleneck-ish as to what's going to happen to you, the player, and you, your party. Alright, so once that's done, you're going to go ahead and use your Lightfoot Potion to go ahead and get out of here as fast as you can. You could Gunshoe here, although I kind of recommend against it. There's going to be a slightly better place to use Gunshoes in just a wee bit. As you saw, we got here fairly quickly. I'm doing this to avoid spoilers. You don't need to know what happens here. Basically, I'm just looking this way to go and avoid spoilers. Basically, we're going to get knocked down. And once we're knocked down, we're going to go ahead and use our Gunshoes to just kind of get ahead. So at this point, we're down on the ground, Gunshoes. Right, I don't have my macro. Actually, that worked better than I thought. So at this point, I kind of just recommend taking advantage of your Gunshoes and trying to pull as many mobs as you can. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more mobs here, but this is going to significantly benefit you and your party, especially if you're ahead. If you're the first person here and that you were able to pull off the Gunshoes like I just did, you are in the fucking clear. You'll have everything pulled up. The chances of getting that, there's an accursed sword that you need from here. These guys, the Winter Blades, right? That Winter Blade is very RNG. And that's where I'm talking about this being a bottleneck. The more of them that you can go ahead and line up and AoE down, the higher of your chances of actually getting it on that first loot. Less time kind of just running around. It's like, oh, well, didn't get it, didn't get it, didn't get it. It works in your favor very, very well. Having a full party here, this is going to be where your party gets slowed down. Because sometimes you go and get it your first try. Sometimes, well, it's going to be like your 8th or 9th try. When we did this on the stress test as a party, we had one person not get it. We all ran ahead without him. But again, because there's another escort part, they get brought in right to where you are at the escort as far as the pathing. So you'll be completely fine even if you don't get it right away. There's no point in kind of waiting around and making sure that everyone in the party gets one before moving on. So at this point, we're just kind of backtracking and opening up all these things while we tried to go ahead and get that. This should be it. Yep, perfect. We'll go ahead and turn in. At this point, we're going to go ahead and get thrown back over to Bane here. And we're going to go ahead and just put down the blade itself. It says it's optional, but it does seem to speed it up a little bit. So, you know, I kind of recommend doing it, even though it says optional. Alright, so you're going to go ahead and just Gunshoe here. This is kind of a waste of Gunshoe, but this is the only time where this actually happens. So it doesn't save a lot of... You should definitely have a macro. I didn't utilize that macro because I'm an idiot. Macro that I recommend, by the way, is this one right here. It's this show tooltip, use Gunshoes, cancel or Gunshoes. It saves you only like 3 seconds. But, I mean, fuck it. We're trying to speed run for this, right? So that 3 seconds, it's going to matter. Every second matters for this. At this point, we're in an escort. And again, if your friends are behind, right, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for them to catch up. So this is where it benefits to go ahead and just be as fast as possible. You'll yeet your friends if you have to. They'll catch up. It's like any video game where someone's like, oh, you managed to find me again. It's the same thing. You should eat your friends. Whatever you got to do, just make sure that you keep running ahead. At this point, you're pretty much done. This is the end of the maw. You're gonna end up at the end again because you're in a partied system. You're gonna be able to kill the content that much faster. And yeah, that's it. This is just a short, quick explanation about the maw, where you should use things, where you shouldn't use things, and all about just making your overall experience a little bit better. One last thing to note is that both druids and worgen actually benefit from their movement speed ability increases. So in the case of druids, their travel form gives them 200% speed and movement while inside the maw. So not only that, but obviously druids in cat farm go ahead, same rules, minus speed, increase the boots, 155% while in combat, able to go ahead and use travel form. Unfortunately, Lightstep Proof Plate does not work while in travel form. However, as a worgen, you have 200% movement speed while just in your base mount form. However, Lightstep Proof Plate does work when doing running wild. So, if you're an Alliance worgen, you're going to have the best chance at running through the maw. Not only are you going to get 25% EXP bonus, on beta it's 30%, but currently it's 25% on live, you'll be able to travel at 220% movement speed throughout the maw. This is absolutely ridiculous. I would be very, very surprised if the world first character wasn't a worgen because of this. At least as far as just like legitimate 100% no loophole leveling. But there you go. You can go ahead and play as a druid, you can play as a worgen, you can play as Alliance, whatever you want to do. One thing to go ahead and note is that if you're an Alliance character and a worgen, you're going to be so far ahead of the pack, you know, because it's a wolf pack. You're going to be so far ahead of the pack that you should be able to, as an Alliance player, have war mode on and not deal with any horde competition for PvP. So even if PvP isn't your jam, you'll be completely safe for the most part, especially if you rush to Mount Draxus, which is what I'm going to be doing. Azeroth Autopilot's going to likely recommend that you do everything in Bastion, which means everyone's going to be leveling in Bastion. If you rush straight to Mount Draxus, you're going to be in a way better position. Anyways, hopefully you guys like this video. I'm not really good with scripted content, but hopefully this was useful information. Hopefully this was helpful. And I hope you guys have fucking enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and have a good day.